What's up, chuckers? Welcome to Catch This Podcast. Today, Nooc, you're going to be taking on sports slinging and discussing that for us. So, take it away.
Well, hello. What's up, chuckers? Yes, this is Nooc, and this is going to be our third episode, I believe. And
Fourth.
You are correct. This is our fourth episode. Okay. I've only had about 3 sips of coffee. So, yeah, we are talking today about slinging as sport. We are tragically moving away from blood and guts for at least one episode, and we're going to talk about slinging just for fun, where presumably no one gets hurt.
Well, that's the idea, at least. So,
yeah, generally speaking, responsible sports slinging, we'll say. So, yeah, let's with that, let's go ahead and dive right into it. We've talked a little bit about some of the history and David and Goliath and some other things in the past, well-known things with slinging, and I think when you're talking about slinging for sport, it generally breaks down into two main categories. One is slinging for distance, and the other is slinging for accuracy. And obviously those two are not mutually exclusive, so you could try slinging at different distances for accuracy or that sort of thing. But basically, when people start to get into slinging and start to have fun with it and start to challenge themselves and push themselves, those are the two things that they really try to push, is they try to push their accuracy or they try to push how far they can throw. And so I believe that the Guinness Book of World Records says that David Ingball at Baldwin Lake, California on September 13th, 1992 currently holds the record for the longest sling shot. And unfortunate choice of terms there. Just to confuse things with slingshots again. Have we had that rant yet?
I think we're going to have to do a whole episode on that.
We are definitely going to have to do an episode about slings versus slingshots and how they are 100% not the same, except in the language of what it sounds like when you're talking about them, just to confuse things. Yeah. But I think that's enough of the rant for now that people will get the idea. So the longest shot with a sling, not a slingshot, is held by David Ingball. It happened in California in 1992. Been a while, and basically, I believe he used what looks like a dart or a missile. It had fins on it, and it had a special hook and a special sling. And his distance was 477.1 meters, where he threw a 4-ounce dart.
That is a pretty long distance for a throw. The longest I've managed that I know roughly how long it was something like 109 meters maybe, so not that great in comparison.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually tried to throw. So I take that back. I've been at a football field before and tried to throw tennis balls, which are not known for extreme distance. So I don't think I've even thrown 100 meters, just because I haven't actually been to a place or tried seriously to throw anything other than a tennis ball those distances. So I think you've got me beat, Kick. So what we're saying here is that we have absolutely no right to be talking about this and have no idea what we're talking about.
Well, I think people got the idea of that from the first couple of episodes, so it should be expected by now.
They should have, but if you haven't by now, then we're experts, folks. Don't try this at home. Do try this at home. That's the whole point of the podcast, right? We're trying to get people to actually...
Yeah, do try it at home. Yeah.
Do try it at home, and if somebody can beat my record of somewhere between 50 and 100 yards, 100 meters, then please do.
That is kind of the thing with distance slinging, is that so many aspects go into it, because David Engvall managed it with this dart, with finned dart type ammo. But really, for myself, I mostly use stones that are, well, the weight varies a lot, but stones aren't the most aerodynamic or best ammo for distance. I mean, the previous world record for slinging an object was Larry Bray, which he managed 478 yards or 437.1 meters, and he used a rock and sling. And to be honest, I kind of think that Larry kind of has more of a claim to the actual record because he was using a real sling, as it were, and a real ammo, not some fancy dart. So, but that's just my opinion.
I would tend to agree with you. I think your opinion plus my opinion is clearly more authoritative than the Guinness Book of World Records anyway.
Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about.
Well, at least when it comes to slinging, because we have a podcast about it.
Exactly. The number one podcast.
Yes, the number one. The best and worst podcast known to man about slinging for now. So, Larry Bray, I'm looking at a picture. We'll put photos of the Larry Bray and David Engvall slings up on the website for the show notes for this episode. I'm looking at Larry Bray's sling right now, and it's very simple. It's just a little leather pouch with a hole in the middle, and nothing special about it. But the thing that I thought was interesting about both of these slings and both of these sling records is how lightweight the ammo is. I was just the other day watching, I believe it was Jorg Sprav and Todd from Todd's Workshop talking about slingshots and comparing slingshots to slings. Again, that's another episode, but Jorg Sprav, one of the points that he made was, and I think this is a common belief in the slinging world, is that you need really heavy ammo. And I guess a 62 gram or a 52 gram rock or dart is relatively heavy compared to something like a BB that you shoot from a slingshot. But in terms of slinging, that's actually not that heavy.
It's quite similar to in weight to some of the lead glandes that they found in history, but with a stone, usually they are a bit bigger than that. From what I've understood in most places, and 52 grams would be light for me. I'm usually, I don't know, about 170 grams is usually a good weight for it to feel comfortable. So yeah, 52 grams is pretty light.
Yeah, a lot of people tend to be more comfortable with that over 100 grams, between 150 200 grams, somewhere in there is. Yeah. I know when people are slinging for accuracy, upwards of 200 grams is a common weight.
Yeah.
So the fact that the longest distance slings are both 62 and 52 grams. And did we say what Larry Bray's distance was? It was 437 meters versus 477 meters. So both really long distance, and at least compared to what I'm used to slinging.
Yeah.
And they do it with what most slingers would consider a really lightweight ammo. So I thought that was pretty interesting. You hear this over and over again where people talk about how the ammo needs to be heavy, and then you look at the long distance records, and it would be what most slingers would actually consider ammo to be too light, even uncomfortably light.
I do wonder how much of it is down to like thinking. I'm again talking about history, and I know we covered that already, but with the ammo found from history, I wonder if the rocks were heavier there, and also people use heavier rocks when doing target slinging because of the impact that they want to impart on whatever they're slinging at. So with the lighter lead glandes, it wasn't so much about crushing whatever you were hitting, it was actually going into whatever you were hitting. That's why they like the Romans had tools for removing sling bullets from people, because they would enter the target. But if you're using a big rock,
and we're back to blood and guts.
It wasn't going to last long, really, was it?
It was a good run.
But if you've got a big rock, then you want that rock to be heavy enough to do damage to whatever you're throwing at. So I wonder if that has some sort of, maybe because with distance, of course, you're maximizing distance, not damage. So I wonder if that's why people don't use lower weight ammo as much.
Well, I mean, if you're throwing over 400 meters, I think you've got to get it moving fast enough to do damage either way.
True.
So something lightweight, that it's got to be moving really fast in order to get that kind of distance. I do have a theory on that, though, and this is where everyone can start rolling their eyes, because I believe in our initial intro, I did admit to being the math guy. So I'm not going to use any equations here, but I do have, and this actually has very little to do with math, but my theory is that the heavier ammo feels better for most people because, anatomically speaking, the human body is inextricably linked to slinging, right? Unlike a bow or a slingshot or a rifle or something like that, where you're basically just holding a position and then releasing your projectile. A sling is a whole body motion, and when you're using something heavy, it actually, if you haven't trained specifically to throw lightweight ammo, it feels more correct when the body is better at very strong, slow movements. And so if you use something that's heavy, it feels more compatible with the way muscles tend to work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like, I do remember that when I first started, I was using, like, sometimes ridiculously heavy ammo up to, like, 500 grams, I think, which is, like, that is, like, crazy weights. But I was finding that heavier ammo was easier to be accurate with. So that isn't for distance, but you can feel where the stone is much more easily. Now that I'm more experienced, I feel that I don't need that much weight to know what's happening with the sling. But when I was first starting out, it did help to have that sort of feedback of exactly where the pull was as to when I needed to release. So I think that makes some sense.
Yeah, and I am definitely not a biomechanics expert of any sort. Not too many things that I am an expert in, but hey, that's why we have a podcast, is just to increase our lack of authority for the rest of the world, right?
We already have microphones; they can't stop us now.
That's right. All right, so I guess that is a good segue into accuracy, and you can't talk about accuracy slinging for sport without talking about the Balearic competition. And so, Kick, I believe that, speaking of experts, you've been there.
Well, you say expert, I've been once. But, yeah, I went for the 2020 competition. It was luckily just before Corona hit, so that was lucky on my part that I managed to attend it. That was really great fun. It's a fantastic thing that they have over there, where they have multiple competitions over multiple days, slinging with both stones and tennis balls. If I can remember the distances correctly, it was 30 meters for men, and then 20 meters for women and youths. If I think that's correct. Wait, hold on. This is editing, Kick. I messed up. It's 20 meters for men and 10 meters for women and youths. So I did a mess up. Okay, back to the episode. They use the very it's a well-known now target, which is it's a wooden backboard with a metal circle in the center, the diana, and you get 2 points for a hit on the diana, 1 point for a hit on the wooden board. We'll have a lot more information about the target and the rules for the Balearic competitions in the blog post, so I won't go into too much of it there. I'll talk more about the actual time, but it is really a really fantastic event. They have people from all over the Balearic Islands, then also people from the mainland Spain, and then people from all over the world, like myself. There was an Austrian team. The Austrian women's team was particularly good in 2020. I think it was their first time going as a full team. They did fantastically well. There's some Germans, some Swiss guys. I know that in the next competition, which is going to be this year, there's someone coming from India. There's been people from Guam come in previous years. I unfortunately didn't get to meet them last year. They weren't there, but yeah, it's a really fantastic time, and I really recommend everyone go. For one thing, I think with most people that are into slinging have the problem that they don't know anyone else that does any slinging. Like, finding someone else to meet up with and practice is almost impossible, it seems. And even when you do know people, such as through the forum, a lot of the times, trying to work out timetables and everything, it can and traveling and all that stuff gets difficult.
Yeah, and when we say forum, that is slinging.org. So that is give a shout out to slinging.org. That's how Kik and I met each other. And there's actually quite a few slingers on slinging.org in Texas, and I have never met up with any of them yet. So we've talked about it, but Texas is a fairly large place, and you can measure slinger density in slingers per 100 square miles. I think would be a fair way to measure it, because there's not too many of them out there that are easy to find, at least. I think there's a lot of secret slingers who never say hi on the forum. Shame on you, but there are slingers out there, and I think a lot of people are interested. But the best way to find somebody to go slinging with is to introduce them to slinging. That seems to be your best bet.
The great thing about the competition is that if you can't find anyone that you can convince into slinging, you can meet some people there that are just as interested in you in this hobby. So for me, it was the first time, I think, meeting up with anyone that was into slinging at all. It was fantastic. I remember I met up with David Morningstar on the forum, and Hubert. I met up with them at the airport, and then we took the connecting flight to Palma. And within a couple of minutes, we were already talking about like Roman siege engines, and talking about what we were doing with
back to blood and guts.
But it was really great to like meet up with people that were interested in these same things that I was for the first time, and just being around all these people that were into slinging, that were showing, comparing slings with each other, comparing ammo, like discussing tactics and for the competition and technique. It was such a good experience, and I learned a lot. It was 3 days in all, and I learned more than I had for the entire time I was slinging before that, I feel. So I really recommend everyone get down to the Balearic Islands. I believe the next one is going to be in Ibiza. I'm hoping to be there. It's in October 2021. We'll have a link to the information for that.
So, and also, I believe this year there's another big competition also in Guam, right? The Internationals.
Yes. I think they had an international competition. I don't know if they're running a second one.
Did that already occur? I may be off here.
Yes, I think it was in February, because it was to also celebrate the 500-year anniversary of the Spanish invasion of Guam. It was they're kind of using the time to commemorate the island culture and like celebrate the native culture there of the Chamorro people, which. Talking of Guam and the competitions they've been having there, it's been fantastic to see how quickly they've managed to build up a following there of people into slinging, and how they've linked it to their native culture and really celebrate that. It's really great to see. I would love to go out to Guam, but it's a little expensive. It's a little far away from Finland, but maybe one day.
Yeah, I think Guam and Spain are equally expensive from Texas, or about the same. But actually, I do have my sister-in-law's parents live in Guam, so one of these days I might make it out there. I'd at least have somebody that I know outside of the slinging community. And the nice thing about slinging, though, is you show up as a slinger, and you're, like Kik said, you're gonna have immediate friends who have that in common, because there's not that many of us out there who are really into slinging. There's a lot of people who are curious about it, but if you find another slinger who self-identifies as a slinger, then it's like you have an instant connection, even halfway around the world, or all the way around the world.
With the slinging.org forum, I had met and talked to a lot of people on there, but I only knew them as their was like their username on the forum, and then actually going and to the competition and meeting these people that I've been speaking to for ages was fantastic, because there's always going to be a distance with the screen, so getting to meet someone face to face was really great. And then all the people that weren't on the forum that were there, talking with them, and I think this is where slinging, it can be at its best when you're actually slinging with other people, and it's a shame that that's one of the hardest things to organise, it seems, with slinging, is to actually sling with other people, because that's when it feels at its best.
One of the best experiences that I've had personally is as I was getting into making slings, and I kind of made it a personal challenge to see to make a decent sling as fast as possible, and to see if I could crank out a bunch of slings, because I honestly just like giving them away to people and love introducing other people to the fun of slinging. So I started making slings as fast as I could a couple of years ago, and then I would just take them into the office where I work. I work in a professional engineering environment, and so I would just start handing out a sling and a tennis ball to random engineers in the office. And it's hard to describe the joy. It's kind of a surreal feeling. You find, I'm an adult man, 40 years old, 40-ish. I don't know. I have to.
You can lie. They can't see. They can't see you on the podcast. You can say whatever you like.
No, that's true. I'm supposed to be the math guy, but I had to pause there. No, that just sounds really old. No, so we'll just go with that. A 40-year-old man, grown man, walks into an office and hands a tennis ball to a colleague, and then we go out into a field and play catch like a bunch of little kids. And there is so much fun in that it's hard to describe. I mean, everybody just walks away from their computer, goes out, sees the sun, and literally just playing catch. Not a game, not even a competition where we're all trying to one up each other and hit the target or something like that, but just standing, 50 yards apart in a field and throwing a tennis ball back and forth. And there's something that's very liberating about it, and it's really hard to describe the feeling, but people have so much fun with it. You just hand them a sling. If you can convince them to walk away from their keyboard for 15 minutes, then you'll get them hooked. So I've been doing that in the office, and it is a great way to introduce people to slinging, and also it's a good way to give people who are brand new slingers a feel for what you can really do with the sling, because it's really surprising. You think about standing in a field and playing catch, and usually people are going to be standing, 20, 30 feet away from each other tops, and then you multiply that by 4 or 5, and that's what you can do with a sling, even with a brand new slinger. That was one thing I wanted to bring up. The point is, one way to find other slingers or to sling with other people is to just hand them a sling and go out and sling.
Go out and make some slingers to sling with.
Yeah, go make some. And I've had some moderate success with doing that. Unfortunately, it is an office environment, and we still have work to do, so we don't get to do it all day. But it's a great way to blow off some steam or to take a break from work, to just go out. And we just happen to be in a place where we've got big open fields right outside the office, so it was easy for us. Not everybody can do that, obviously. But if you can, if there's a park or someplace nearby, grab a tennis ball, grab a couple colleagues, and just act like kids for a little while. It's worth it. It's a lot of fun. So let's get back to accuracy. So, Kik, you mentioned the Balearic Target, which is the official measurements are 1.2 meters square. Is that right? Yeah, so it's a square target. Yeah, the metal Diana, which is the bullseye, it's a 50 centimeter circle. And it's a pretty great target, because when you hit the Diana, you get this really nice clang sound that gives you good audible feedback of when you've hit.
I can say when you hit one and you get that clang, it is a really great feeling. And with the stones that they have in the Balearic Islands, they're not all that strong compared to, like, here in Finland we have like granite stones which can really take a beating. They never break, but the ones in the Balearic Islands are much weaker. So when you do hit that Diana, it explodes in a cloud of like dust and stone shards, and with the explosion and the sound, it's pretty great. And then also you have everyone around you cheering that you got a Diana, so it's a really great feeling.
Yeah, that's one thing, is this community is generally very encouraging. When you go out slinging with other people, it's not the competitive side is people do compete with each other and try to win, but generally the atmosphere is very positive, and that's something that I've observed. No matter where you are around the world, slingers seem to stick together, and just have some fun. And that's a very important part of it. Now, if you want to get competitive and you want to, one up everybody else, so, if that's your thing, then go for it. But, my observation is that the slinging community tends to be very positive and very encouraging of one another while competing.
That's what I found with the competition, because it was my first time going there. I didn't really know anyone there. I'd talked to someone on the forum from the international group, but from the actual Balearic Islanders, I didn't know anyone there, and they didn't know me. But while I was slinging it, there'd be, not very often, but I would occasionally hit the target, and then people around would be cheering, and I would think, oh, okay, they're cheering for the person that's sitting next to me. And I realised that no, they were still cheering for me. They had no idea who I was. They didn't know me from anyone else, but they were cheering me on all the same because I was a slinger and I got a point. So it was just, it was a very positive atmosphere, and all of the competition there was very friendly. There was no one that was, getting that was really overly competitive, or it never got nasty like that at all. Everyone was just there to have a good time and sling and hang out and chat. So yeah, it's a really great atmosphere there. And as you said, I think there is something about slinging generally that, that seems to draw in nice people, as far as I can see, as far as I've experienced.
Yeah, so and we'd like to keep it that way, but part of the point of this podcast is to try and encourage other people to get out and sling. So, I'm gonna say something crazy here. If anybody is around the San Antonio, Texas area, then shoot us an email at feedback@catchthispodcast.com, and maybe we can hook up, go to a park, and toss a tennis ball around or something. And I don't know if you want to say the same thing for Finland, Kick.
Yeah, if anyone's here listening around the Helsinki area, then send a message and I'll come meet you pretty much wherever. I'm always up to go slinging.
Yeah, same here. I'm always happy to meet new slingers, or if you're just interested and want to learn, let's try and make a thing of it. I know there's people all around, and so we haven't had a lot of response. This is a little bit of a bunny trail, but I told people in the last few episodes to send us an email, and I was going to do a drawing for a sling. We haven't had a huge response on that, so I'll throw that out again, this time in the middle instead of at the end of the podcast. If you send us an email, tell us that you're out there, just say hi, whatever, then I'll throw you in the running. I've gotten a few, so somebody's getting a sling, so I'll send you a sling if you send us an email. We just want to get to know our audience and engage with you guys in a bi-directional conversation, in addition to the podcast where you can't talk back, and we can say whatever we want without you having a chance to respond. So this is your chance. Send us an email at feedback@catchthispodcast.com, and back to the podcast. All right. Enough of our little mini commercials. But, okay, so we talked about competitions. We mentioned that the two big places where there's going to be a slinging competition is in the Balearic Islands and in Guam. And I don't know if there's an official website. I know that various social media, you kind of have to get tied into the sling community to stay on top of when and where those things happen. Is that right, Kick?
Yeah, that's my understanding. But if you can come onto the slinging.org forum and ask, and someone will point you in the right direction. That's probably the easiest way, or just ask from one of us and we can try and get that information to you.
We do have a podcast website now that we can try and keep that information up to date there as well, just to have an extra data point for people to find.
Yeah, and on there we'll keep it up to date as best we can.
Try to keep that info up and running as we have information to share. So that's competitions. So speaking of slinging.org, another one of the fun competitive things that has been going on the last few years is there's a thread on online challenges that I know, Kick, you and I have both competed in a little bit, probably you more than me. But if you go to slinging.org, we'll put a link again in the show notes. There is a big, long conversation in there where people are just coming up with ideas for things that would be challenging, and then if other people go and do it, then it turns into a friendly competition.
Yeah, it's been really fun doing those. I did I think almost all of the challenges that I've done, I think all of them, are up on my YouTube channel as well, so you can check those. But
and that's kick slinging, I believe. You search for kick slinging on YouTube, then you will find it.
I thought we'd finished with the self promotion, but okay.
We're never done.
But
if you don't share it, then nobody can find it.
True. But I did quite a few of the indoor challenges because with various places going into lockdown in 2020, there was a few suggestions for different ideas for things you can do inside, and I've done a fair bit of slinging indoors just because it's a lot easier than having to drag all my equipment out to the field nearby that I've been slinging at. So,
well, you also have the distinction of living in Finland, where you go into lockdown every year for what's called winter.
Yes, that is the one thing as well. Some of those indoor challenges can be quite useful if you're in the sort of northern hemisphere, where maybe 2 to 3 foot of snow outside is not unusual and is most of the year and makes slinging somewhat difficult. So having some indoor challenges can be quite good as well.
I've participated in a handful of those challenges. I did the nail challenge, sort of. I don't think I ever completed it. I think I failed a few times, and I don't remember. I might have actually hit a nail, but that was one that was popular.
Very difficult, that one as well.
Yeah, very difficult. Yeah, you put a nail into a piece of wood, try to hit the nail, and drive the nail into the wood. So extreme accuracy challenge. I don't think there was a set distance. You just basically are throwing rocks at a nail and trying to drive the nail in. One of the fun things about these challenges is that it pushes you personally, pushes your skill level and probably your endurance as much as your skill level, because some of these you just have to keep throwing until you hit it.
That one took me a really long time, and I didn't quite get it fairly. I may have used a hammer at the end.
My initial entry into that one was more of a joke entry where I think I was throwing a hammer out of the sling at one point.
That could be one way of doing it, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you now, it doesn't work very well.
Okay.
I think I did throw up a YouTube video on my personal channel, which I'm not going to promote, because if you search for mine, it's just under my name, and there's so many people with my name that it doesn't matter. You're probably not going to find it. Unless you go to Kicks. If you go to Kicks, then you might find me from Kicks or from... search for slinging, you'll find me eventually. So let's see, what other challenges are on there? The Pendulum challenge was another one that was popular. And that, again, is just basically you put a swinging target up, and now you're trying to hit a moving target. And I'm trying to remember, I don't know if there were size restrictions or if you just had to hit a target that was swinging like a pendulum.
I don't think there were many restrictions. I didn't actually take part in that one because I just didn't have the facilities for setting up a pendulum. But yeah, I don't think there are any restrictions necessarily. I think it was just a pendulum.
I believe you're right. And that's the thing, is these are just fun, friendly competitions where it's more about doing it for your own personal challenge than about winning. There's no prize. Every once in a while, someone will throw a prize up as just a way to entice more people to participate. But there's not really it's not a serious competition. It's more like a bunch of school kids sitting around making up the rules of a game while they're in the middle of playing it. That's probably the best way to describe the slinging.org challenge thread. There's a whole bunch of different challenges on there. Those two were some of the early ones that were popular. And then one that got a really good response was the 1 minute can challenge.
Yeah, I still haven't attempted that one yet, mostly because I don't have any cans. That's the only problem is in Finland you can trade cans in for money, so or at least for money off of shopping. So we don't have any cans lying around. We trade them in pretty quick, so I need to save some up. Yeah.
Well, you can. I'm pretty sure you can trade money in for cans as well. So you can just sling at the money.
Yeah, that's true.
It's equivalent.
True. Yeah, I do just need to go out and get some, I think. That was more just my excuse for being lazy, so.
Yeah. So I have participated in that one. I was one of the early ones that I think I held the championship with 1 can in 1 minute for quite a while, and then other people blew that out of the water.
Yeah.
But the 1 minute can challenge was fun because it puts some time pressure on you. You're trying to hit as many cans as you can in a minute. And so you've got an accuracy challenge, you've got a time pressure, and it's a big challenge. Just hitting a can from, I think there was a 10 meter minimum distance on that particular challenge.
Mm.
So it's not easy to hit something the size of a soda can or soup can. I don't think that was even specified. But, generally something that's about 2.5 inches across, or, what is that? 6 or 7 centimeters.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't think in metric units most of the time, even though I actually prefer to use those. So for our international listeners, sorry, I'm using English measurements, but America. So what can I say? So anyway, throwing. I threw tennis balls. You throw rocks, throw whatever at cans. That one is a really fun challenge, and it really will push your skill set, because you've got to set up multiple cans, and then you learn to fine tune your aim and try and make very small adjustments. Because once you hit one, now you've got to adjust your aim and hit one that's in a different spot out in front where you're throwing. So it's a really difficult challenge to do, but it's a really good way to build your slinging skills.
Well, yeah, because usually with aiming and slinging, at least I've found, I think some other people have talked about this before, that really you use your first shot or few shots just to see where they're going, and then you adjust from there to see where you can hit. So having that challenge where you have to get that accuracy quickly and then move on to another target without spending too much time with that adjustment is a really good sort of training method. So yeah, I do really need to go out and give it a go.
Yeah, that one I would highly recommend for anybody who's got a little bit of experience. The first thing, if you're just starting out with slinging, that's probably not the one to dive into, because when you're brand new to slinging, the real challenge is to get the sling to throw in the direction that you want it to, and to not have it land on top of your head when it flies out straight up. But most people get past that pretty quick, and these challenges really are a good way to push your skill levels and to learn quickly, because you're focusing on little small elements of slinging in each of the challenges. You learn quickly how to improve those skills.
Yeah.
The pendulum challenge is another one. I think that the sling is. I have again, me and my theories. I have a theory that the sling is one of the better moving target projectile weapons out there. I think about something like a rifle, and you've got a lot of weight, momentum, and it's designed to shoot in a straight line. So if you're trying to follow a moving target with a rifle, it's a big challenge. A slingshot is a little bit easier, but a sling, you're already moving your entire weapon. Your entire projectile launcher is already in motion the entire time. So if you can train right, I think that the sling is actually one of the easier things to do with moving targets, or to learn how to do moving targets, because the natural state of a sling before you launch your projectile is in motion already. So it's just a matter of lining that motion up with the target. So
you're already leading your shot.
Exactly. Yeah. So it feels very natural to go after moving targets, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about that when we go into hunting. I think we have a planned episode on that coming up soonish.
Yeah.
And when we say soonish, if that's 2 episodes from now, that'd be a couple months away. I don't remember where that was in the order. Anyway, moving targets is really one that I don't think you have to already be an expert at slinging. It kind of uses a different part of the brain. Yeah. So that one I would recommend anybody try it if you have the ability to just put a big frying pan or pie plate or some sort of target out on a string and get it swinging. Just try it and see if you like it, because that's one that I've been meaning to try as well. I haven't done the pendulum challenge, and there's a whole slew of other challenges, and then you just make up your own if you want to. Some of the other ones that tend to be popular are around Easter and Halloween. There's more of an entertainment than a challenge, where people are slinging either at Easter eggs or at pumpkins, and those are a lot of fun.
I particularly like the pumpkin challenge. That's always been a really fun one. With the last one, I was using a staff sling on a pumpkin as well, and got some really good shots on it, I have to say. There's more luck. That's not me bragging. But
I'll brag on Kick. Yeah, you annihilated that pumpkin.
It was pretty fun. It's really fun to just smash a pumpkin up, really. I recommend everyone do it, even if it isn't Halloween. If you can find a pumpkin, sling at it. It's really fun.
And I will second that. So I am currently the reigning world champion of both the Pumpkin Challenge and the Easter Egg Challenge. But mostly that has nothing to do with skill. That has to do with how silly I tend to be in front of a camera.
Your video was really good, though. That pumpkin, like, with the whole sort of Rube Goldberg machine-esque like setup was fantastic.
I believe you could probably find my channel and find that video is sort of my masterpiece at this point. The slinging.org pumpkin challenge. If you search for that on YouTube, you'll find me. And yes, I set up a snare trap type of trigger and then was slinging at a target that would then trip the snare, and then Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny style, dropped a ton of bricks on the pumpkin. Absolutely fun. And, all the credit for that video really goes to my 6-year-old son, who added color commentary in the background and absolutely made the video worthwhile.
Yeah, it's a really good video.
It was a lot of fun to make, too. A very complicated video to shoot. I had so many different shots, but that was a lot of fun. And then, the Easter Egg Challenge, also, that I'll give a shout out to Channing from Practical Paracord. He sent me a sling as a prize for winning the Easter Egg Challenge this year. And again, mine was more silly than anything. We were just, I was slinging at an egg and then hit a raw egg over a frying pan and on my barbecue grill. And then I didn't actually eat that egg. I cooked another one and made it look like I was eating the egg. But just kind of silly fun. And most of that has very little to do with slinging. There was a sling involved. But the challenges are just a really fun way to engage in the community. It's entertaining. It's in this case, it was probably pushing my videography skills more than my slinging skills, but still absolutely a joy to get involved in those sorts of things. So I'd highly recommend it to anyone. And the best place to do that is on the forums on slinging.org. So I'd highly recommend that. The forum is a little awkward to use sometimes. It kind of feels like you're back on dial-up, but if you're willing to figure out the interface and put up with a little bit of that, those forums are absolutely great for engaging with the rest of the slinging community.
The best thing about the challenges has been that it's forced me, for certain, but I think for other people it's kind of encouraged us to go out and actually get slinging. Like, I think one of the problems is that you can kind of build it up as, oh, well, I've got to go do this and take the things there and then set up. But if you've got sort of more of a sort of reason for going out there, you've got this challenge to meet, it can really help motivate some slinging practice. Because, even with all these sort of extra things you can do and making it entertaining, you are going out and slinging, and that's, the main thing. So it's a good motivator.
I've gotten to know a lot more slingers through the challenges than just interacting on the forums or just by slinging directly.
Yeah, that's true.
Plenty to talk about with those challenges. Let's talk about, in that odd chance that you can get more than one slinger within, 100 square miles of each other. There's a few, sport things that are more almost like paintball. Back to, instead of blood and guts, we'll just simulate the blood and guts by pretending we're at war and slinging at each other. If anybody has ever played paintball, it's a lot of fun to shoot at your friends in a controlled and safe, responsible way. And the same can be true of slinging. I think generally the slinging community that Kik and I are in recommend, if you're going to do something like that you use sock balls. That tends to be our favorite ammo for throwing at people because it weighs almost nothing and it's just a sock.
If you sort of make the sock ball well, then you can get sort of enough weight so that it does travel, but anything it hits isn't going to be damaged. Like, I've been doing a lot of the indoor slinging with sock balls which are then wrapped in balloons. They're often called Rusty Balls by Jagor, who is on YouTube, and on the forum. He's made them using sand, which is far too dense a material for use indoors or against people. But if you use sock balls and wrap them in balloons, then that can be a very good ammo and won't hurt really anyone or break anything. So that's one way of doing it, and that does give you enough of a weight to be able to throw it, but without damaging anything.
So I will put a caveat to that. I won't tell you why, but so getting hit between the legs, even with a sock ball, isn't necessarily pleasant.
Yeah, you do need to take some precautions, but for the most part, they're safe.
Yeah, nobody's going to get seriously injured. You might be down for the count for a few minutes if somebody gets a lucky shot. And there is sporting equipment to prevent that sort of thing. So if you want to be totally safe, wear a cup. But otherwise, yeah, sock balls or a sock wrapped in a balloon. The nice thing about the balloon is that it keeps it all in one nice shape. It's a little more aerodynamic.
Yeah, they fly a bit better. Yeah,
and you can get enough weight to actually throw them, at least short range. They should work just fine. The thing that I've used that I've had pretty good luck with is these wool dryer balls. So it's basically just like a sphere. It's about the size of a tennis ball, and it's just a big ball of wool. And you can buy those. They're somewhere between $1 and $2 a piece on Amazon, and those work pretty much like sock balls. It's basically, it's a ball of wool, so it's basically the same thing.
One of the other recommendations, I haven't tried it out actually, but I've heard it recommended a few times, is using marshmallows, because they're very light and won't do any harm to anyone, but they do have just enough weight to, be able to throw them some distance at least. So, and then of course you have a delicious snack for, after you've finished. So
that's right. Yeah, you just have to scrape it off of a tree first.
Yeah, just brush it off and it'll be fine. So.
Oh yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah, I think David the Shepherd is probably the most famous example of using marshmallows, slinging marshmallows. And I'm pretty sure he uses a fairly heavy sling. So because the marshmallows weigh so little, the momentum of the sling allows him to sling it even though it's so light.
Just to be clear, that's not the biblical David that we already talked about. That's
that is an online character who operates under the name David the Shepherd.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he does do I think a Bible themed it's some sort of a Bible themed show where he demonstrates slings. He also sells his own slings. He has his own website. He's not a sponsor. I've interacted with him on the forums, but I don't know him that well, but I know that he's posted some YouTube videos where he uses marshmallows to sling. So that's the example that comes to mind for me when I think of slinging marshmallows, is David the Shepherd.
Yeah.
That's one of the fun things about this being a relatively small but international community is everybody kind of knows of each other, even if they don't know each other. But David, feel free to send us a hello anytime if you hear this. Give us a shout out or not, whatever. It's okay. I'll just wait by my phone and cry until you call.
Should we do Splash?
Well, yeah. So let's. Splash is a good segue. So Splash. I just Googled Splash, and apparently there's some sort of ninja or a samurai video game of the same name. So it has nothing to do with the slinging version of Splash. But Splash is a little bit more organized than a bunch of people getting together and throwing socks at each other. But it's almost the same thing.
Yeah, it has sort of similar rules to dodgeball, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and I think there's two teams and there's a line that you're not allowed to cross, and then basically you're slinging sock balls and trying to knock the other team out. So it's very similar to dodgeball with a sling. One thing I will say is if you're slinging at other people in this sort of fun, silly way, you definitely don't want to get too close, because you're more likely to hurt someone with the sling itself than the ammo. The tip of the sling can break the sound barrier, so if somebody gets too close to you, you can give them a nice little gash or at least a nasty red mark, or you could even hit somebody in the eye if you're not careful. If you're really unlucky, the tip of a sling could actually do some damage to an eyeball. So be careful there and keep your distance. Don't get too close to other people if you are doing this sort of dodgeball type of thing. And I believe Splash sets up rules that mandate distances between people. So I just want to throw that out there for safety. Be careful and be aware of not just where your sling ammo goes, but where the sling itself goes when you throw. Okay, so Splash. I think there may be a couple of videos. We'll try to post a link to a video of people playing Splash and some more information on that on the show notes as well. Sling Golf. Are we ready to talk about Sling Golf?
Yeah, Sling Golf is interesting because I would really want to play it sometime, but I still haven't managed to. It's interesting because it's very much like the same sort of idea as Frisbee golf in that it's playing golf but with something other than a golf ball and golf clubs, which over here in Finland, Frisbee golf or disc golf, however you want to call it, is very popular. So I'm wondering if Sling Golf could take off over here as well. We need to work on that.
Yeah, and if you talk to serious disc golfers, then they usually will end up carrying multiple discs around. Sometimes they have a special backpack that holds all of their discs of different weights and different. They have putters and they have drivers, and they get very specific about the specific function of each disc and what it's supposed to be used for in disc golf. And I think if Sling Golf, if it took off, I think you would probably see some interesting innovations in that same direction where you might end up carrying multiple slings and having multiple. Sling Golf uses a golf ball usually, so you wouldn't have multiple ammunitions, you'd just use a golf ball, but you might actually have multiple sling designs for different purposes as you're trying to hit your target and score points.
We know from history that and we'll talk about this again in another episode, that we say that a lot, but there's so much that we're touching on here. But the Balearic Islanders, it's said, had 3 different lengths of sling for throwing at different distances. So you'd have a longer sling for a longer distance and shorter for close range. So I think something like that would be like quite useful for Sling Golf, that you have your driver and your putter and all the different distances that you need to reach. So yeah, this is why I want to try it out, because I want to try out some of these ideas, and I know that there are some people that have played Sling Golf, but I haven't really heard much about how they've gone about it. So I think that'd be something really interesting to try.
Yeah, I'll say the same thing here. I have not tried Sling Golf. It does look like a lot of fun. And I've always said that sling and golf I think they both touch that same sort of addictive fun point in the brain where you feel like you have control and you want to keep trying and keep improving. Golfers tend to have that same sort of addiction, or at least this is by observation, not by direct experience, because I'm not an experienced golfer or sling golfer. But again, I'm on the microphone, so I'm an expert, folks. So no, but it does have a certain. Golf and slinging have a lot in common in terms of them being, it's a very mechanical activity that ties the body and trying to hit the projectile in a very controlled way, in a way that you always feel like you can do better and you just want to keep going. So if you're self-competitive, then it's the sort of thing that would be fun because you keep pushing yourself. But also it's fun to just get out there and throw some golf balls around. Golf balls are fun ammo. The weight, the size, they go really far. So when you have a place where you can safely throw golf balls, it is fun to throw golf balls with the sling. Yeah,
I think with Sling Golf, it covers both of the areas that we're talking about with competition and slinging, that you're trying to maximize distance and you're trying to get that accuracy as well. So it's sort of the perfect marriage of those two things in a competition in a lot of ways. So yeah, it'd be really, I really want to go out and try it. There are some golf courses, there's quite a lot of golf courses in Finland, but I don't know how many of them would be okay with me going on with a sling, but I need to go ask, really, see if I can, if they'll let me on the driving range.
Yeah, I can actually walk out in my front yard and I can see a golf course, but I have yet to go out there and try. I haven't asked to see if I can go out singing, and I can't get on the golf course from my front yard without going way around to the front gate. But I have no excuse for not at least trying to go out on the golf course and toss some golf balls around. So maybe we'll, speaking of friendly competitions, Kick, we'll see who gets out there first and declare a winner on who's bold enough to actually go to the golf course and try it.
Well, again, there's the competition acting as a good motivator. Again, it's a really good way of getting into some slinging and challenging yourself. It's a great motivator. So, yeah.
That's right. I'm going to win, by the way.
Ah, okay. It's like that. Okay.
All right. Okay, so the last thing on the slinging for sport that I had in my notes here was trick shots and slinging for entertainment.
Yep.
And we covered that a little bit with the pumpkin and Easter egg challenge stuff. And we'll post some videos to some of those things. But shout out to our friend Mitch Mersa, who is currently kind of the trick shot king when it comes to slinging. There's some really good trick shotters out there. Iron Goober's another good one. You mentioned Yegur.
Yeah.
So there's some good trick shot slingers out there, and they're all on YouTube, I believe.
Yeah, I think all the videos are on there, so we'll have links for all of them.
Yeah, we'll throw up some links to everyone there. So there are some really entertaining videos, really amazing skill shots when it comes to slinging. And the thing I love about the trick shots is that it kind of pushes your belief in what's possible with a sling. It's not always necessarily something you could do over and over again. It might take many tries before someone actually achieves one of those trick shots, but it doesn't matter. What it shows is that it's actually possible.
One of the big things with slinging that people find is that it's very difficult to get accuracy quickly. Like, with a bow, someone can get within pretty good accuracy within maybe a few days of practice. With a sling, it can take months, possibly years. Yeah. So, like, seeing people actually manage to make these shots is kind of shows that, these things are difficult, but as you say, that they are possible, that it's not as inaccurate as people say it is.
Yeah, or it doesn't have to be. I mean, it still can be. I mean, it's, with practice, you can get fairly accurate. And, we talked about that a little bit with the biblical account of David and Goliath even. There are cases where, historically speaking, people have been more accurate, but the sling is part of their life, part of their daily life. Sometimes, it's what feeds them or keeps them safe. So if you're not slinging every day as part of your culture and haven't grown up with it, you feel like you may not be as accurate as you could be, but there is this limiting belief sometimes where people tend to talk themselves out of believing they can be more accurate. And I like the trick shots in terms of inspiration because it shows you that you really can do more, even if you didn't grow up slinging from a little child.
Yeah.
So examples, we should give some examples of what these trick shots are. I think the one that a lot of the people we just mentioned all did was the bottle challenge, or what?
The Hourglass challenge?
The Hourglass challenge. Yes, the Hourglass challenge. So the Hourglass challenge, you take a glass bottle and then another glass bottle and you put a card, like a playing card, in between. And then the challenge is to hit the playing card, and the top bottle is filled with sand. So you hit the playing card, knock the card out from between the bottles, and then the sand pours from the top bottle into the bottom bottle. You think about the thickness of a card, and they tend to be a good 10 meters away, 30 feet for those Americans who don't think in meters like me. So they're more than 30 feet away, and they're trying to hit the thin side of a playing card with a rock or a rusty ball or a tennis ball or something like that.
And also try not to knock the bottles over, which is difficult enough as it is. So yeah.
Honestly, the bottle is a challenging enough target.
Yeah, just hitting a bottle can be difficult. So yeah, not hitting a bottle and hitting a card in between two bottles is pretty crazy.
Yeah, you have to not hit the glass bottle, not knock anything over, and then get just the right spot to knock that card out. And you have to hit it in just the right way too, right? If you hit it moving up or down and don't hit the very edge or hit the edge with the center of your ammo in just the right way, then it's not going to get knocked out from between the bottles. It might spin it. You might just kind of bend the card out of the way. So it is an extreme challenge. And Yegur, Mersa, and Iron Goober, I know all three of them have done that challenge and posted it on YouTube. So it is possible, and it's not just one person. There are multiple people who have accomplished that level of accuracy and caught it on video. So Mersa's done some really fun ones lately. He I don't know if it was COVID, pandemic, lockdown, boredom, or what, but he went through a stint of a whole bunch of trick shots that he was putting out last year, maybe this year as well.
Yeah, start of this year, I think. Yeah.
Started this year. Okay, yeah, my timelines are a little fuzzy, but
everyone's are now.
That fair enough. he put out a candle with the sling. He did all sorts of really interesting ones that were pretty impressive. So I think we'll post a link in the show notes on catchthispodcast.com. That's where you can find all the show notes and things for these podcasts if you want more information. And again, not trying to self-promote. We're not making any money on the site or anything. I think I'm spending money on the site just to keep it up and running right now. But the whole idea is we want someplace where if you want more information or want to see something about something we mentioned, then we'll post the show notes there, and you can find links to the videos and that sort of thing. So that's all that's about is catchthispodcast.com is where we post those show notes. And depending on how you're listening to this podcast, we try to put some notes also in the podcast show notes themselves. But it's easy to point to that one spot. So I will say again that shoot us an email, and I'll randomly draw from whoever comes and talks to us, and I will send you a free sling. It is of my own design. I make a lot of these things, and I think they're pretty great. I think they're fun, and if you don't have a sling or don't want to make your own, then it's a good chance to get one from me.
I can say that they're good slings. I've got 2 of them now, so I recommend them. That's kick approved.
There we go.
Whatever that means, if that means anything.
That means everything. All right, I think that's it. Let's cue the outro.
Thanks for listening. You can find us online at catchthispodcast.com, on the sling.org forum, on YouTube, and at catch_this_podcast on Instagram. Music by Wintergatan. Catch you next time.